welcome to yet another edition of Journey2Service, episode number 36. Lee Mutters as well has joined us. Unfortunately, Cody Waas is not able to attend today. He might jump in a little later, but for now, it's just the three of us, and we are back again. Randall's in his usual office at Bankers Hall. Had to do a little bit of arm wrestling, I think, with the lady guard, but other than that, he has made it successfully to his home base. But I'm going to start with Lee while Randy gets settled. Lee, you look very comfortable in your homestead. How you doing?
Very well, very well. Great week, lovely week. It's progressed quite nicely. Feeling a lot of the pressure and the confusion and the bewilderment coming up in individuals and all the fear, which is coming to the surface, which is great to see, to be released. So wonderful. all good.
Wonderful. It definitely sounds like we're preparing ourselves for something, and I'm looking forward to hearing some of your comments. Randall, you look all settled and centered here now. How are you doing?
I'm good, William. Yeah, it's been a fun week for us too. I mean, I'll dive into more on DOSM later and our connection to First Republic Registrar. That's solid as a rock now in the foundation.
Did you say? Did you just say that you jumped more on it in a bit? Moronic?
Well, the moronic stuff, what did I call it yesterday? Somebody liked that when I said variable. The moronic variable has definitely, helped us because, we'll talk about that later too. But the moronic variable, I mean, what a fucking Christmas present, eh, Lee? Like, how could you get a better word than that for a variable than moronic? They just mixed up the letters, but we figured that out, or somebody figured it out within seconds, and then everybody was like, oh yeah.
I'm taking credit for that one. I used variable last week, and I really loved it. I thought, oh, that's a good word. That's wonderful. So that worked out really well. I'm glad to see that we're loose and we're happy and everything looks great. I have a feeling this is going to be a bit of a let loose show, and so I think I'm just going to jump on a little bit and start with Lee. And Lee, you're noticing a lot of fear. You were telling me off camera, and you really wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit. So I'm not going to ask questions. I'm just going to throw it at you and see what you toss back. So what are you noticing this week?
It's been an interesting one in just that little small aspects of what people are going through and what they're saying and what they're coming up with. I had a guy come around the other day to ask for something, and he was talking about he's got depression, anxiety, stress, living in fear, double juiced, going for the third, fourth, whatever they need. He's looking to buy a plot of land somewhere, needs this juice to be able to go and do this because of the pressure. He's got a business, all of this ongoing. And I spoke to him about a little bit about, why do you feel like that? Well, it's just stress. It's just what's got to be. It's just how it's got to be. Well, no, it hasn't. Well, it has. That's just no, it hasn't. And a friend of mine then, and another one, cousin, he's suffering from depression, anxiety, empty shell of himself, said he's got no energy to do anything. I said, well, come down and spend some time with me. No, I can't. So ultimately, what I've come up with, or what I've found through all of this, and a few other conversations, is people like to be in that mode. People like to be under that pressure. People like to be and maintain that, and say they don't. But when you offer them something that actually removes all of that, straight away, they tell you why it can't work. So, and this is prevalent, micro, macro, I see it in the bigger picture. I was talking to a guy yesterday about going to the demonstrations, the protests, and they're protesting to the government to release this sanctions and release this pressure and these regulations and whatever. And he was giving word of GPMS to them and a release system to them. And they were saying, so what does it mean? And he said, well, there won't be any government. Well, who's going to look after us then? We need the government. And so you got the people protesting against the government, against what they're doing, against how badly they're being treated. And then you say, well, let's get rid of them. No, we can't do that. Which comes back down to what Randy was saying about this leadership thing. People need leaders. I disagree slightly with it, in as much as people need to be freed to be able to go think past where their suffering is in their own minds. And it all boils down to it with me is it's a conscious creation of that thought process in the one to defend whatever system they've got that keeps them feeling somewhere near useful. What would it be like to not be able to blame anybody or anything for your own suffering. How would that feel if you had total freedom not to be able to blame any system or any structure or any other thing, any other pressure on how you feel? How would that actually come out inside of you? And is that where this thought process is really based on? Is it that fear of, shit, if I've got nothing to blame, then it's me. And I've got to take full accountability and responsibility for everything I do, think, and say. So it's an interesting little aspect of all of this, inside of all of this. And again, with what I've been talking to with the GPMS and with the transitional periods, et cetera, what people need as opposed to what people want. It's boiled down to this again. I will ask anybody, would you like total freedom? Yeah. What does that mean? Well, you don't have government. You don't have to worry about, well, no, we can't do that. But you would like total freedom. So where's this problem coming in? Where's this stop and this blockage coming in? Is it because you're scared of it? Is it because you haven't moved past it? So it's an interesting, it's been an interesting little concept and construct this week that I've been following through with facing these sort of blockages coming back and just asking them why. Why is that? And I actually believe that if we actually boil it down, and I said this a couple of times, that if you actually asked everybody what they wanted in an individual room without any pressure or any other structures around and said, would you like never to have to worry about money again, never have to worry about pressure, stress, anxiety from an outside source, would that be good? Total freedom, would you like that? And I think all of us would say yes. And then we get all the reasons why we can't have it. So my question would be is, if that's what you want, then stop putting the reasons in why you can't have it. Can you take that accountability and that responsibility into your own mind and create the environment at the end without all of the perceived problems in the middle? Because they're only from here. In reality, that can all go like that. So I'll start off with that and open it up for you guys.
It's a great start, actually, Lee. I was watching an interview that Ida did with her two friends, Jesse and Kevin, a couple in Ontario, and they had a very deep conversation. Then they went right into it about the virus specifically, the V word, and you know they went very deep. And part of that conversation, that word, taking responsibility, came up, and I have a little example personally as well. I was watching an interview that you and Rick had done. I can't remember if it was the latest one that I watched or the one prior to, but it whatever it was, I think it was the one prior. And somebody in the Zoom audience that you were talking to had actually mentioned that he knows personally Donald Trump, and that he would ask Donald if he could talk with you and Rick about GPMS. And immediately my mind said, oh, that's really cool. And then immediately my mind said, oh, but that'll never happen because Trump is this, celebrity big shot, and, Lee and Rick are these little guys in the corner, and immediately I could catch myself and I say, well, why can't that happen? Just because I believe that there's too much discrepancy in status that Donald Trump couldn't talk to Lee and Rick? I mean, that to me, that's like, why not? And I also realized that taking responsibility, that means a lot, because when you have to take responsibility for your life and the management of your life, and then the management of the world, I can see how people can get a little scared by that, because all of a sudden there's no one taking care of them anymore. And I can completely relate to those comments for sure. Any rebuttal there, Lee, before I jump over to Randall?
Absolutely with you. And this is where I have, but the word can be broken down: responsibility. Well, it's the ability to respond, and that takes a little bit of effort on one's behalf, on your own behalf, to actually learn, work out, go through the process of learning that ability. Of course, that means shedding some of the old thoughts and shedding some of the old indoctrination, and shedding and dropping all of these reasons why you can't. Everybody has the ability to learn something, but we throw that word away as a responsibility, and we offer it to others. It's their responsibility to look after me. No, it's not. No, it's not. It never has been. It never will be. It's that easy throwaway term, but that's the indoctrination process. That's just where the government structures and the systems of control of over impacted and devalued humanity to the point whereby humanity actually believes they can't look after themselves, which is a complete and utter lie. It's just an obfuscation of the truth. You give, as I said, 100 people on an island. 100 people on an island, drop them off on an island. What would they do? What, or kill each other and the one with the most profit be the victor, or work together? Again, with this, work together, what would happen? You'd have an automatic, organic movement of people. I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other, I can do that to benefit the all. No, you're not doing enough. It would never be a case if you're not doing enough. It would be looking after everybody. And we know that as a compassionate, loving species. Yet when we put it into the bigger picture of the world, it all becomes so complex, so difficult to understand. It's so big. It's not big. It's only as big as this makes it. And of course, media, in her beautiful propaganda terminology, makes it very, very big and very, very complex. And that's very, very small. Of course, once you put in that little word sovereignty and you step into that sovereignty, you know you're equal to everybody else, then there is no status. In my rebuttal to the guy, to Trump, I said, come and speak to us. If he's got a place in the future, he'll tell us the truth. He'll speak to us within truth. Has he got the ability to speak to us with truth? We're open to speak to Mr. Trump. Happy days. Come and say hello, and all the military. Hello, guys. Come and speak to us. But there's inequality. There is no status. But you're standing in that, and of course, a lot of people would immediately go to, he's a big celebrity, and then no. Of course, then you're creating disparity. Then you're creating separation and non-equality, which is what's been drummed into us. They're higher than you. You're nothing but the workers, and they're blah, blah, blah. All of this thought processes and all of this indoctrination needs to be shed as we develop our ability to respond or response.
The other comment that comes to my mind is something that I noticed. I mentioned this in shows in the past with Randall. One small town, Michael Tellinger is starting that movement, and they're having some success. But one of the stories that he shared, which I found fascinating, was he'd always talk about what the end result could be, what it could look like. And it looked really, really, great. And a lot of times he would say that he got a lot of resistance because they said, oh, that's too utopian. And I'm going, yeah, he said, yeah, it is too utopian. And what's wrong with that? We've gotten to the point where we actually will turn aside something that could be so wonderful because it's too wonderful, and so that what logic does that make? And yet we somehow seem to rationalize it and say, oh, that's just a logical thought. Utopian is bad. Why is utopia bad?
It's too far-fetched. It's too far to reach. It's been purported to us that it's too far to go. You can't. That's madness, craziness. It's humane and civilized society is utopian. If that's what we've been taught to believe, and that's our responsibility to say no, we can't have a humane, civilized society, then we really need to have a little question of ourselves. And I would say to Mr. Tellinger, that I've already contacted him to say that GPMS is Ubuntu worldwide and would fund all of the small-time projects instantly. And it would be a great idea for him to contact us. But to date, with this one small time project, and I know he's rolling it out, I've been watching it for years and years and years, and I love it. And I love what he does. Come and speak to us, because this on a bigger level and this on a complete level creates that instantly. You don't need to start with that and build it up. This is this time. So yeah, I'll throw that one open to Mr. Tellinger too. Now you brought it up.
All right, awesome. And we were talking a moment ago about responsibility, and a man that I know always takes responsibility to the point where he's doing whatever he needs to do and is not afraid to do it. Randall Kaiser. Randall, any thoughts about anything that Lee has said so far, and tell us a little bit more about DOSM and the progress that you're making there.
Oh boy. So I'll take responsibility for my audience dropping again this week. And the main reason for that is because, once again, and I'm going to say it right here and now, Donald Trump cannot speak to Lee and Rick because he's an actor. He's not authentic. He's not telling the whole truth. This man is a big shot celebrity, as you just called him, William. That's what he is. He's a celebrity. He's a TV, WWF hero. He's a "you're fired" hero, whatever that show was. He's a what other stuff was he? He was a hero of Trump University, which I took the course in. He's the hero of so many people because he's some kind of a real estate tycoon who made his millions despite fluctuations in markets and everything over his career. Really? Come on, folks. He's set up and put into place with this artificial intelligence system, right? So artificial being what? He says it all the time. He uses an F word, fake. Okay. So he brought us to that whole fake news idea, right? That was Donald Trump that presented that. Said fake news, deep state, deep state. Well, he doesn't use that. He uses communists and Democrats, but it's deep state, you see. So we got all this fucking story going on. And here's Donald. And don't get me wrong, when I speak later, I'll let you guys talk for a little while again, and then I'm going to go into DOSM. But since we started off on, Trumpy and the government story and the people saying they work for us, now they have to look after us, like Lee said, like the fuck, that's still government, and it gives them the opportunity to pull out some more artificial intelligence, as in, intelligence that's secret, and only they know it. Donald fucking knows what the credit system and how it works. He knows how powerful the autograph is versus the signature, all that stuff. Of course he knows that. Would he sit and talk to me? I've invited him numerous times to sit on a bench in the park. Will Lee and Rick get him on a bench in the park? No fucking way. Not in an authentic way. If it was all set up ahead of time with the cameras and the green screen and everything else, maybe. That's the only way these characters acted out. Am I running Donald Trump down? No. You see, that's why people run away from me, because listen to what he's saying. A fucking asshole. He's not a patriot. He's not fucking supporting Trump. I'm deleting his channel, and off they go. But what I'm saying is what we've done with the artificial intelligence, with all the secret society stuff that's going on out there, is inverted the situation, right? Brought in a good guy. That's what they do all the time. But in this case, it's very obvious. And then flip the whole media to do around as well. Everybody says, oh, the media, they're just lying. They're lying. No, they're just doing their job. They're doing their job in this artificial intelligence design. So now what they're doing their job in is showing the utter moronic capability of government in the first place. Anybody that can't see that now, that says that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Trudeau, those are the leaders of North America. Are you fucking kidding me? That is complete, utter movie playing out for our benefit, to show and to wake up people to the fact that these fucking idiots, these morons, are going to play their games in front of you until you wake up. They're going to keep pushing you and doing these moronic activities, causing you all of these things in your life until you finally say, wait a minute here. What the fuck? Like, that's what's going on. That is it, the government in a nutshell. Can I predict what the government is going to look like? Or, whether it be the republic that people say, oh, I saw some paperwork last week too. Here's Donald Trump, his autograph on the bottom of a document saying he's the president of the 19th president of the republic, not the 45th president of the corporation. And this was signed on January 21st of 2021. It's all in place. So is that when they inverted it? Is that when they said, okay, let's flip this all around and tell the story the other way, start to make it look obvious to the people so they wake the fuck up? I don't know. And I don't know what government is going to look like, but I don't give a shit, because I'm going to continue on this divine path that's over top of government for sovereigns like you and me and William that have an opportunity to give people a choice beyond government. Okay. And there are many choices. And as Leah said many times with DOSM, it's going to be the people who decide, okay, what this new reality looks like. Well, somebody like us and other groups out there, I'm not running anybody down in their stories, Galactic Federation of Light, any of that stuff. If you want to latch on to one of those, go right ahead. those are all still people's stories, and most of them have a good narrative and good people that are kicking them into gear, whether it be, Charlie Ward and his group, or Simon Parks, or Kim Gogoan, or you name it. Like, how many different groups? And I've been that close to every one of them to just observe myself and see if I could find a place to call home. Never found a place until now. And that place where I'm at now is divine in my mind. And I'll tell more about that later on. But there's my thoughts about our buddy Donald Trump, who is doing a good job as an actor, as this idol who's still in that patriarchal role, walking around with his fucking chest out and his little darling a couple steps behind him, who's so beautiful and such a magnificent expression of feminine and everything else, but it's still a fucking patriarchal story, isn't it? The one I'm going to tell is about balance. It's about Jesus and Mary. It's about divine order, and it's about natural order. So I'll let you guys go for a little while. I did my rant, so your turn.
There we go. Well, we just knocked down the viewership just a little bit more, but we're all ready to keep going. It's a 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation, I think. Lee, I don't know where to really run with this, but I kind of felt like I was just thinking about something you said as well, which was, how on the one hand, we want our independence and I want our free choice, and we want to make our own decisions, and we want a free world, and we want peace on the world. And yet we can't let go of government, it seems like, what's going on here? Why are we stuck? Why do we stick ourselves to the old way? Because why are we so afraid of that?
Something to do with coding. It's something to do with the way we naturally think in this survival mechanism in my mind. And it's not something I'm worried about necessarily at this point in time, because everybody's at their own process in their own area, consciousness expansion, or staying plateaued wherever they are. At this point, that's fine. There's this moving past that is the interesting aspect with the truth. And I'm still going to come back down to these words that are thrown out there quite a lot, is love and light. I call it truth and transparency. Those two things. Without that, we're all dark. We're all sort of in these positions where we're separate and divided and running off in different tangents and different angles. Truth and transparency comes in. We speak a lot to what people need, as opposed to what people want. Now, the want versus the need. The need is the part where I think we put the blockages in. We need that. We need that. We need that. But what do you want? Well, I don't want that, that, and that, but we need it. You don't need it. What you want is what you need, but then the needs come in. So this is where we put these structures in and these hierarchies in our own mind, because that's what we've been taught and trained and indoctrinated to believe through what we class life. And little words like work, sweat equity, these things, they're predominant. Well, what would people do if they haven't got to work? What, they have to work today. So now we put that in as a have to. So you're born to have to work. Sweat equity, you've got to put that in, otherwise you get nothing back. These kind of concepts have been thrown in. So of course, then immediately they stick in the mind and they say, well, without that, we can't do that. Well, that's not true. What we're doing is we're putting in these indoctrinations and these processes that we've known fully well. I'm not blaming anything for it. I'm just saying this is the case. We know that this is the way it was. And now we're looking to the future and say, well, that's the way it always has been. This is the way it must be. No, it's not. What do you want? Do you want to have to work? Well, not really. Well, then why are you saying we have to? Well, we must, because otherwise everything will stop. What? Why will it? Well, if we don't do this, then it will. If we don't have government, then who's going to look? All of these problems are in here. When we actually put them together, none of them are problems. They're just what was, as opposed to what will be. So this interesting part of like what people need as opposed to what people want is where we start to throw these problems in my mind. What do you want, William? Do you want freedom, abundance? Do you want to be told what to do every day of the week and have to slave for a pittance? Or would you allow yourself to pure freedom, to live your life without pressure, without worry, to do what you want to do, make your mistakes how you want to make them, without pillory, without being separated from everybody else? Was that what you would like? Of course it is. But then you're saying, well, I don't know how I'm going to get there. Well, it doesn't matter how we're going to get there. This is the point that we're trying to make, is GPMS puts everybody in that position of what they want. And then we say, right, how are we going to get there? As opposed to, we've got to get there first before we can have it. So in my mind, there's this little transference of this thought process, this releasing of these problems and saying, what is it I truly want? What is it I truly represent? What is it I truly want for everybody else? From the heart, not from the mind, not based on the past, not based on experience, not based on precedent, because we are in an unprecedented time. So if we're in unprecedented time, how can we use precedent? Et cetera, et cetera. A lot of, we can go into energies, we can go into divinity, we can go into galactics, we can go into lots of different higher structures. We don't need to. We can just look at what it is that we've got, what it is that we see, and make the best of that with purity and transparency. So once the truth comes out for the masses, and it will, to whatever degree, and it will be undeniable, then what will the people want, as opposed to what certain people think the people need? And that's the interesting part for me. And this is where I talk about GPMS. When the truth and transparency comes out, that truth and transparency will be what people want going forward. And anything that holds anything at this point in time that's being created by anybody without truth and transparency, without thinking what the people want and sitting above it and telling the people what they need, will fail. So I'll sit at that point.
Imagine, if you will, you have this giant eraser, this blackboard eraser. Imagine if you have that, and you take everything that you've ever learned, all the conditions, all the things you ever had, and it's all there on the blackboard, and you just start wiping it all off, and it just goes away. Like, I'm guilty of it too. I'm going to take responsibility right now. I am guilty of that as well. I spend most of my days, this isn't about me beating myself up, by the way, but I just wanted to make a point as an example. I spend most of my days working my businesses because I figure, you know what? I'm in debt. I have to keep working. I have to find enough money to keep paying the rent and all the other things that I need as necessities to keep going. And therefore, don't really do enough or take a lot of action toward our independence, toward making claims towards the things that we ultimately do want. So there's some actions and some things that I have to really look at and examine for myself. I could relate to the example that you gave, Lee, as well, earlier on, and I kept thinking, it's just so ingrained in, like, for me, it's just so ingrained in me that I have to work. It's very unsettling. I'll use that word. It's very unsettling for me to say, I would love a future where I don't have to work, but I don't know what that's going to look like. And because I don't know how that's going to look like, I feel uncomfortable. And because I feel uncomfortable, I don't want to experience that. That's sort of the chain of thoughts that I go through. And I'm going, if I'm experiencing that, sure as heck, there's going to be other people who are experiencing the same thing. So it's not going to necessarily be easy mentally, and maybe in other ways too, but that mentally for sure, because we have to forget or let go of many things that we've already experienced. Any thoughts, Lee?
Absolutely. And this is so, it's prevalent. You can see it in the spiritual community within a child work, and that's releasing old stuff and releasing blame and releasing these. It's releasing a lot of this stuff so we can relearn. Beautiful thing that somebody once said to me when I used the words, the meek will inherit the earth. And she replied, the meek are the teachable. So to be teachable, then you have to be willing to unlearn and then relearn. And these sort of concepts. So I would change the word work to something you enjoy, something I want to do as opposed to have to do. I'd love, many people will, you would still do the same, and many people out there would do the same thing. I hate what I'm doing. Yeah, but I have to do it. Well, do something you love doing, and then don't call it work. But then we've got this different, well, I can't do that because that won't pay. Then you've released all of that with GPMS. So what we're trying to deliver at this moment is hope through this, so that there is something bigger and better and more beautiful right through this. And all you got to do is release the blockages to see the beauty, and then we all create it. It's that straightforward. But at this moment, it's so fearful, like you just said. Well, if we go into that, then what? Then what? And this is that ego struggle to survive. This, I need all this structure. I need all these control mechanisms so I have a place in it. If you give me total freedom, where's my place? Wherever you want it to be. Don't be fearful of that. But of course, then the mind says, well, there's all these things I got. No, there isn't. No, there isn't. Let them go.
One of the coolest things that I remember from the interviews, the last two interviews that I've watched from the GPMS with you and Rick and guests, and you were guests on their show, was the fact that Rick kept saying that the GPMS could be integrated within 2 days if we had enough mass appeal, if we had enough people saying, yes, let's do this. Because what you said before, and you'll say it again, I'm sure, is that you're using the existing systems that are already here. So it's not like you're reinventing the wheel and having to start from scratch. You're using the structures that are already here, and you're just shifting who's managing it and how it's managed so that we are all winning rather than all slaves to the system. Is that a fair assessment?
Beautiful. 2 days if the governments wanted to do it. If the governments had the benefit of the people in mind, it would take them 2 days to produce what GPMS offers. But then it would still be under the government structures and under the ownership of government and of the few at the behest of the many. But so yes, there is nothing that needs to change, and this is the beauty of it. It just changes the system. It inverts this to this and opens everything up as opposed to closes everything down. To put everybody in charge of their lives completely. So it's not something that needs, the minutia doesn't need to be organized, because once you start to produce and bring in the experts, in IT and whatever, in all of the different fields, then everything opens up and changes. Of course, what we're getting at the moment is the government propaganda, which says that can't happen, this can't happen. All the experts are in position, and they're changing all of the numbers and all of these, adding in, what did I see today? There's a new thing on heart attacks, which is post-pandemic stress disorder, climate change, and all these different things coming in that hide away from possibly another effect of this. So these propaganda arms are keeping everybody in this minutiae, in this complexity, where they're bogged down in the minutiae. And of course, what this does is flips that around and gives truth and transparency using the existing systems, but fully funding it of the people by the people. So yeah, absolutely, William. It takes what we've got and just says, let's change that. And the people choose how to do it.
Randall, do you think that you will ever have the people that are in government ever be willing to switch if the people demand it?
God, who knows? I mean, that word government just doesn't work with me, as you know. Like, I can't stand the word to start with. But if I jump on that wagon and say that, look at how many patriots and how many conscious people of the false narrative that's going on in the media right now are behind Trump, well, then that's the best bet for people that want to go there, right? So I would say, for now, that's all I want to say about government, and I'm pretty much done with it for today.
Okay. Okay.
Where I'd rather go is to, first off, mention how important it was what Lee said: enjoyment versus work. Okay, 30 years, and I was in that monetary so-called debt credit system for all of those years. So my mind was never comfortable as far as that side of it. But as far as my work, oh my God, I woke up in the morning looking forward to going out and seeing if there was a new calf, or just feeding the cows and seeing their how comfortable they were when I laid that row of hay out on the ground and they'd come and start eating, and they'd look up at me and chew their cud after they're done. I mean, what kind of enjoyment is that? That's not work. How many of our grandmothers went out to the garden and picked the weeds out and then harvested their beautiful, garden after it was grown out, and sat on the porch and pulled the peas out of the pods and stuff? Do you think they were calling that work? Hell no. So people are going to enjoy things, they're going to still enjoy doing things. The people that are now trained in industry and stuff as cleaners, these security people that I deal with, and this beautiful young lady who I just had to smile at and schmooze up to a little bit to let me sit in this room, she enjoys her work. Like, she really seems to enjoy it. The Filipino people that come here to Canada, I'm not saying they don't enjoy having two jobs. They're happy people, So we're going to continue to find ways from here forward, as Lee says, you know, it's what we want now. And a lot of people are going to still want to do something. We've been droned into the mindset of sitting in front of something and playing games, but that can change. They'll get bored with it. Maybe we shouldn't make any new games. And then all of a sudden there's, okay, what am I going to do now? Well, I could go plant a seed out in the dirt and, look forward to watching it grow, and then I can eat the peas, or, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I always bring it back to the very basic, simple nature of nature. Okay. So when I want to go into now this little bit of stuff about DOSM and how I found it to be home for me. Okay. So when I first got into the banking system and realized that it was the human energy only. Okay. And whether that energy be deceptive due to artificial intelligence, okay, secrets and lies and deception and stuff like that, which Lee talks about, is changing that to integrity and honesty and truth. I saw that right off the bat, and I thought, okay, what else is here? And when we first got into the sovereign money, he called it. Now we're talking about Bauer Rothschild, the top nut in Barclays Bank. Okay, so I'm not fucking around here. These guys, and he's part of the families, probably the most intelligent one of the families, who actually manifests and worked this system. Okay, worked is the key word. That man, when he first met me and realized that I was attached to these asset-backed accounts, he kissed my ass, honest to God. I would have never been so treated so well by that man in my life as when he realized that I had potential to access these asset-backed accounts that his own family was blocking in the banks, in off-ledger accounts, right? His own family being the system, right? And I'm not going to run them down and say, they're the fucking bad guys that caused all this. Every one of them has the same capacity and potential as that man to start to see the truth, which he knew was not going to be just by the energy of humans. Okay. So when I talk about that, think about in terms of creation of a child or a baby cat or a baby dog or a plant or anything, all life starts this way. There is the egg in mammals and in animals, right? Of some kind, an egg. And then there is a spark that interrupts it, right? We're talking very simple stuff here, okay? There's two things that have to happen. There has to be that basis, and then there's this frequency, energy, resonance and vibration, currency, that kind of language that comes in and sparks the beginning of creation, right? So think of that in the monetary sense, okay? So we eliminated that. Or what we did was we took a little bit of an egg, okay? Fractional reserve lending, think of this. This is back, and Bauer talked about this, that the kings who originally had some gold, and then they wanted to create titles for their lords and ladies and barons and duchesses and dukes so that they could have something too. And they created this. They didn't have enough gold to back that. So they just said, oh, don't worry about it. Just keep making some paper. Doesn't that make sense to everyone that is how the system started? And this fractional reserve idea began. So that's not natural. That's artificial intelligence, because there was a fake piece of paper there, an artificial document that was not truthful because it didn't have anything to back it. There was no basis behind it. So bring that back to creation again on a natural level and say, Mother Earth, okay, we usually want to use the word Mother Earth, but we could just say Mother, Father over here, and then Earth and God over here, okay? Not to put a masculine and feminine on Earth or God, just to say that there's two things on this side, and there's Mother and Father on this side, God and Earth on this side, whatever you want to call it, Source on this side with Earth. But what it boils down to is that egg, again, that initial resource, okay, that's going to blossom into something. And we have that. It is called Earth, okay? And the resources that come from Earth. I'm not just talking about the treasure that's been stashed and hoarded away. I'm talking about oil, which is not limited, like they say. It's continually replenishing itself. Gold and silver and everything else, same thing. Diamonds under pressure of, you know, rocks moving or whatever you want to call it, is those are being created as we speak as well. So all of this stuff is abundance, and it's continuing to be created. On top of the earth, we've got the capability to grow things, okay? And whether that's domestically growing animals for food or domestically growing food from plants or fruits or whatever, that to me is all the same thing. It's all sentient. It's all, plants and animals have energy just like together, right? I can get as much energy from a tree as I can from hugging a cat. You know, so that to me is all earth. That is all Mother Earth, and all of the resources that she, I'll just put the word on there for lack of a better word right now, is there for us. She is offering us. But we need that spark, which is, again, the frequency, the energy, the resonance and vibration, the currency of God. Well, what's God? That's us. The God spark is in us. The ability, that drive, that masculine will to, you know, penetrate the egg and start the creation process. You know, you call it whatever you like. So maybe I'll stop there for a bit, and you know, I'm gonna go into DOSM again later, but because it's that balance that I was after, not this patriarchal bullshit story, you know, and patriarchal bullshit being Jesus Christ. You know, come on, folks. Mary was right there with him. They created together, whether it's a story or a child or children or whatever. The natural aspect of Jesus Christ and Mary is what grounds me, okay? It's not he died on the cross or he died for his sins or whatever. He was the driving force. And then he had to calm himself to go into that feminine, nurturing aspect of nurturing the creation that him and Mary created together, okay? And call that a story, call that a religion, call that Christianity, or call that a child, okay? It's all the same thing. The masculine drives with the currency, the feminine receives, and together they nurture. Together they nurture in harmony. That is the simple story that I want to keep telling. And when I finally found an organization that thinks in terms like that thinks in terms of that balance, you think I'm going to let go of that? I'm going to co-create with that story. And these are all people. That's the beauty of it. And there are people in government positions. There's people in banking positions. There are people in the banking system that we can bring in this story, this benevolent, loving, harmonious story, and keep focusing on it until this shift occurs. So I'm going to stop for a bit. That was
I was thinking, I don't know, sometimes the strangest things pop into my head, but yeah, in part of your, you know, comments, Randall, you mentioned you didn't use these words, but sort of the energetic organicness of things like, you know, kitties and puppies and trees and things like that. And for some reason, Charlie Brown popped into my head. I remember Charlie Brown and the old TV show, and he would always be going out on Halloween, and he'd always end up being given a rock. The rest of the kids got candy, but he got a rock. And I'm going, wait a minute. As Randy was talking about it, he got more organic energy from that rock. So he got the gift. The kids who got the candy, they only ended up with sweet tooths and cavities, and they ended up getting what they thought was great, but turned out to be not really that good in disguise. So I don't know why I thought of that, but it just came to my mind. You know, Charlie Brown got the rock, but it was really the gift after all. Lee, is there anything in Randall's sharing that that you can speak to, even from a GPMS perspective at all?
Of course, there's they're not disparate or dissimilar what Randy's talking about and what we are. They actually work together just on different levels at the moment, but they will meet. The energy part of it and the balance is beautiful, Randy. Again, we can speak about this for a long time, but that balance is where we're going to. So non-patriarchal, and the balance not just in the masculine and feminine, but in society in terms of equality. So we've got people in positions. Well, we won't have people in positions because these positions don't need to exist. They're only there in the hierarchical society where you've got to go through to this position to get to that position, but that's not equal. That doesn't create equality. It creates an awful lot of manipulation that can happen in the future once one of those positions is possibly tainted. So we don't, when we're looking at a lot of this, one of the funky parts was watching the Canadian policeman in uniform yesterday give that speech. And I think Randy alluded to it yesterday or today in one of his videos. But what the Canadian police officer said, or police, whatever he is, said was, "I am not a leader." Bullshit. 300,000 views. Says you are, sir. You are a leader, but you don't want a leadership role because you've seen how bad they are by the leaders that we've got in leadership roles. And this is, again, this thought process is, I am not a leader. Yes, you are. You would step into a role and you would have respect because you would demand equality and you speak to a balance. That's leadership, not what we see as leaders. And nobody wants to be a leader compared to what these people are. So again, what I would look at is a lot of individuals out there that don't want any leadership roles. And I don't blame them, but they are leaders and they will step into positions because they know how to run it. They've been there. They've got the experience. They know how it should have been done, what they wanted to see done. They know the problems that they found within these systems. And as soon as they are given a chance, they would step straight back in and work for humanity equally on that energetic balance. And of course, what we're talking about is taking away all the pressures and all of the economies and all of the government structures and regulation and disparity and need for complexity. And once you do that, then you've got these individuals which know exactly how these systems should be working and they can step straight in. So this is why it would work with everything that we've already got and everything that we've already had suppressed to coming out. Which I also like to add in through my own thought process is the celestial chambers, the light chambers, however you want to call them, replicators, all sorts of different stuff that's being kept away from humanity because let's be fair, everything needs to fail every 6 months. So we keep spending what little pittance we've worked for with our sweat equity whilst the structures that are there to look after us haven't. So therefore, none of this new stuff can come out and that's future stuff that we've got to start step together, really band together. This unity is very, very important right at this time. There isn't a lot of time left in my mind with what's going on in fake reality for humanity to actually unite together for one common goal, as opposed to 5,000 different common goals because this is mine and that's mine and that's mine and this is what we need to do and that's what you need to have. No. So I'm bringing it right down to the base level. One common goal, freedom, abundance, truth, transparency, however you want to see that. Forget all the problems, forget all of the systems and all of the structures that people are already there to do all of that. What's the common goal? Can we, as a human race, balance ourselves? Can we balance that energy? Can we balance the masculine, feminine, the past to the future? Can we balance all of this energy into a unity, into a common goal forward that benefits all equally or not? And I think I know the answer. I think I'd love to know. I love to think I know the answer. And what's happening is the fake systems are showing us that that's the way out. Doesn't matter where you look. If you don't unite with somebody else, there's no real way out. But the more of us get together for that one common goal, then things start to proceed and progress. And that's where we are.
I hear the word leaders, and I noticed, of course, that we've been using it more so in the plural sense, because I think we really do have to be a group in coming together. I mean, you can't lead if you don't have any followers, but at the same time, I don't think you can lead if you don't have any other support as well at the same level. And in this case, what I think you're also saying is that leaders don't necessarily have to be at a level above everyone else either. It's just because you're a leader doesn't mean necessarily that you are some sort of, step above everyone else. I think of Trumpy as well. and that Trump would be on an equal footing with us rather than, you know, this notch above that he's been put by many people as well. So the real leaders are the ones that are willing to step forward and be okay with not necessarily being, you know, praised as something better than everyone else. It's more of a group activity rather than a singular activity.
Of course, it's equality and balance. So if you need to lead by dictating or by totalitarian or by need to be recognized or need for follow, that's not leadership. Not in the future anyway. That's the way it was. Don't get me wrong. I need to do what he's going to do. Otherwise this. Yeah, but it's through fear and it's through menace. You know, I've got bailiffs coming around very shortly demanding stuff off me with menaces. We're going to take your goods off you. You know, what's that? That's not leadership. That's my local government, my corporation telling me I'm nothing and we're going to take stuff off you because you owe us. I don't owe you anything. I never did. It's all fake. Stop it. So again, as long as we can, when we start to come together and unite, we don't want people to tell us what to do. We want people that carry out what we want and that do that every time without service to self. So administer to the masses that don't want to be in that position. But many people are quite happy to be in that position. So this is the difference in that thinking. A leadership is administering on an equal balanced level with no need or greed, no ego agenda with it, no need to say I did that. No, we did that. I carried it out for everybody else. And all I did was I carried it out with transparency and truth and purity and benevolence and equality for everybody else. Because that's what I enjoy doing. They enjoy doing what they do. I enjoy doing this. Great. Happy days. We can all work symbiotically, you know, and along this line. But of course, that's not what we used to. So now we think, well, that can't happen because nobody's to be trusted. Not all of these little things come in. Again, I would ask everybody, like you said a bit earlier beautifully, William, is to wipe that board clean. And the leaders that will step in will be the ones that are true of heart, that are balanced, that are non-egoic, that are non-patriarchal, matriarchal, haven't got agendas, just want to do the right thing at the right time and do it.
I think that's a great lead-in to talking about DOSM in more detail. And I'm going to pass it on to Randall because we're already getting near the end of the show, Randall, and we haven't even got there yet. So let's talk about DOSM and your progress.
Well, service is the word I'd like to bring up. And serve. Okay, so what we're doing now, a lot of us who are outside of the matrix and are sovereign humans now, we don't, you know, we function in it because it still exists, okay? But that's it. Other than that, you know, just don't adhere to it. So we are observing, okay? Ob being not only the prefix to that word, but ob meaning ahead of, okay? So observe is ahead of serving, okay? It's that simple. And when you find people that want to serve, which is what, you know, government was supposed to be set up to be. Like if you think about it, these people that are running around being candidates, what would they be? Promoting themselves for a position in government are often that way. They're saying, we want to serve the people, but they get there and they have to serve the government because there's no choice. They can't do anything. It's a pyramidal, patriarchal bullshit story. You can say that you want to do this for the people, but once you get there, you can't do fuck all. So getting above that government structure, once again, is where I've been for years. And seeking up until now, when I see, okay, seeking, I dropped the K word or K letter, and now I know, and I'm going to tell this story over and over again as an option for people. Like I say, it's an option, and we are people, okay? We are people in that banking world that people want to brand as bad. We are people in the aristocratic world that people want to brand as bad. We are people in the elite world that people want to brand as bad. Well, then go ahead. Find another system that adheres to you and that you feel good with. If that's Donald Trump and his, you know, towers all over the world and you don't really know how he got those towers, whatever, you know, like doesn't matter to me. You know, like it's fine. Just adhere to whatever feels good to you. But what feels good to me is a story of masculine and feminine. I'm sorry to say, William or Lee, I'm not discounting what you said, but to me, that balance, that harmony of the divine masculine and feminine, and I say it again, Jesus and Mary, Mother Earth and the spark of God, whatever you want to call it, that all works for my mind. And it's very simple in my mind to go there. So again, that is why, and I know GPMS isn't really on the same page with me on this, is that I think in terms of the treasure that's already existing, okay, and this is the way DOSM functions, right? Treasure that's already existing, the resources that we're pulling out of the system, okay, we have CEOs of international oil companies that are working with us. We have aristocratic holders of these asset-backed accounts. We have people on board that are sitting on treasure and assets that are not even off ledger in the banking systems, let alone off ledger or blocked or on ledger. They're just sitting on it, okay? And they want to work this through to the people as well. These are people who have all observed the system and seen the failure in it, because there are still children suffering from lack of food. There are still horrible, tyrannical, as always, dictatorial governments on the earth. So all of that is just obvious to us now that there's been some kind of a failure in this monetary system. And this monetary system has been based on one-sided consent. Whether that consent is voluntarily given or taken from you, it's still consent of the energy of the human being. The monetary system has been built that way. Since the 70s, we have had nothing but, when they dropped the idea of asset-backed, monetary system for governments altogether. Take a look at Nixon and what happened at that time, or even Trudeau here in Canada. It was the same time. We just dumped the idea of that. And good thing we did, because why in the fuck would any government be put in charge of an asset like gold or silver, like they were doing at that time too? And people are talking that way. We're going to go back to that. Look at these governments are buying up gold. Look at what Putin's doing. Look at this. Trump has now took all the gold back from the Vatican. Well, that's fucking pittance compared to what's here. Honest to God, people don't want to think in terms of the abundance of it that's out there in a treasure format. Most of it not even close to being in the banking system, through an SKR, safekeeping receipt, through an assay, through a measurement of some kind, and then brought in with a certificate to say, this is the basis of our system. So that's why the people, the conscious people that I've been working with for years already, have now amalgamated and concentrated on Divine Order of Santa Maria. Brings in that mixture of Jesus and Mary with the divine feminine mother, okay? Mother Mary. And no, don't give me this story about freaking, what do you call it? How they have a child without, insemination. What's that called? I don't know my words very good.
Divine conception?
No, immaculate.
Immaculate conception.
Thank you.
Come on. Joseph was involved. So let's just get that out of our heads too, okay? Because that's what I talk like. And I'm not going to put up with any other stories, because otherwise it's stories. And then it gets into more stories and more stories and more stories. I don't mind people going there. If they want to go to the fucking moon or to Saturn or to Pluto or Andromeda or some other planet or whatever, you go right ahead. I'm staying right here on Earth, the Earth plane, in a natural, simple story. And when I saw more people thinking that way and talking that way, and I was able to attach to more and more of them all the time. We have 21 ambassadors in nations around the world already on board. And these are, autographed on. There are ministries, and I don't mind the word ministry in this case. When you're ministering as a prime minister in Canada or the minister of agriculture in Canada to some fucking fairy tale queen story, get lost, because she is not sovereignly, separate from everybody else. For one thing, she was just, puppeting what the Pope and George Bush Sr. and her husband Philip and the Lord Mayor of the fucking inner city banking system of London. That's all she was. She had no divine matriarchal power. It was nothing. It was a pathetic three-tiered, trilogy system with, as we've said many times, the Vatican, the inner city of London, which includes the Crown Corporation and Queenie as a banking family member, and then Washington, D.C., which covered the military and media, to give us the Tavistock Institute update into Washington, D.C., to deceive us with fucking media and military. So we know that system. All of us, we've observed enough to know that it's failed. And now it's failing even harder because it's flipped, it's inverted. The good guys are exposing the bad guys on TV, if you want to call it that. But that's still legal Looniverse stuff. So if you have to stay there, if you don't want to go into that area of thinking above government from your sovereign state and how you can give, how you can co-create, as John F. Kennedy said, ask not what you can do for what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. It's your country, though. Don't give it to some government. Don't say, well, what can I do for my government? Fuck the government. What can you do for your country, for your land? Because you are a sovereign, living human on the land. I'll keep talking this way forever, but I think that's about the only thing that's kind of separating my story from GPMS right now, is that I still think that using the unlimited amount of assets that are already mined, already stored and stashed and hidden away, on top of using the resources of Mother Earth that we can continue to grow on top of the ground. I don't agree with mining anymore. We don't need to mine anymore. Dig up more gold and silver, just, unless we use it in technology or something like that, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to judge any of that stuff either, or get pinned down by somebody and told, oh, now he's fucking going off on that tangent. Everybody does that, like, open your mind, open your minds, and listen to what I'm saying as far as the big picture. And it is big picture stuff. But again, just to finish it off, I think that using the assets that already exist in these accounts, let alone the stuff that's off ledger, not even in the accounts, that could be brought in, gives us all kinds of opportunity to give the comfort to the human beings and create, rather than manifest, projects that are good for all, okay? All being all life, AWL, all being air, water, and land. Those kind of things is the way my mind goes. Like, that is all too. And then let's just get on with it and do no harm. We've got all kinds of stuff here right now to build with and work with and expand on.
Thank you, Randall. Lee, any comments before we wrap this up?
I'm gonna have some fun. I'm gonna have some fun with Randy. Am I? Yeah, I am live. No, the money side of it and the gold side of it, what I've said about GPMS is the value is inherent within the individual. It's our own energy, it's our own divine spark, it's our value, it's infinite. It doesn't need to be put into a material. My question would be to the guys that have these offset accounts and these off ledger accounts with all of this ancient funding and everything else, is if they want the same, come and speak to GPMS. Do we need to have that gold? Or is that an idea? Can we go past the gold into no gold, no material, just infinite funding? Can you see that? Or does this maintain a sort of aspect of, no, we're in charge of this still? Does that give all of the systems to humanity? The ownership, the guardianship, the stewardship of all of these systems, or does it maintain them just outside in another little area, can it loop back into the future? Can it come back in the future if the systems aren't completely owned and run and guarded by humanity at this point, at this stage of change? So is there a looping effect that could come back in if this system, you know, if gold is used? I'm not knocking what Randy's doing, because I love what Randy's doing, and in that echelon that he's working with, and it's beautiful. But they would both combine. They would both combine instantly. Should the aristocrats and the elites and the hoarders of these funds, et cetera, release all of that need to hoard those and just say, okay, yeah, we get you. We don't need to use this. We can do that. That's fine. Can that be done at that level? Now, my question then would be, is what would humanity want? When there's 6 billion saying, well, we want this and you're offering us that. Yeah, but this is the way. Oh, I'm not so sure that this 6 billion will say that is the way. So is there a meeting point? Is there a balance in the middle? Go on, buddy.
Let me jump in there, because, you know, when we say the hoarders, most of the hoarders are the people. Okay, they're not the elites and the aristocrats. Most of the hoarders are these people that have made money off the credit system or the capitalist system and have hoarded it into the stock market, or have hoarded by, you know, buying a bunch of homes and a bunch of cars and stuff. Those are the people, not the elites and the aristocrats that have done that. The elites and the aristocrats know, most of them know. In fact, I would say the majority of them know that what they're holding, what they're keeping, is for humanity, not for themselves. They don't need it. You know, so I
used the wrong word. I used the wrong word. I wasn't talking about Schmiegel's hoard necessarily. Hoarding, X amount of different stuff off ledger, whatever it is. It's something else that can come in. And I'm not going to knock any. This is just my story on what GPMS is offering. It's not about whether it's, you know, Brand is wrong or these guys are doing this. I'm purely putting the premise out there that if there is all of this that is unlimited wealth, near as damn it, that is already being grown, mined and and is already there, do we need it? Or can we go straight past it to not using material and just using the human value and release that again, another release mechanism as opposed to a transitionary mechanism? Can these guys that have got this for humanity but hasn't come here quite yet jump on board and say, yeah, we get where you're going with this, and we can see that bigger picture, that it is in the benefit of humanity as a whole? Can they do that? Or is it going to be a stand by the unity of humanity that says, no, this is what we will accept? Again, GPMS offers that, you know, that future, or that not offers that hope, you know, that complete release and the stewardship and guardianship of every single humane structure on this plane under the auspices of humanity as a collective, as opposed to any individuals that may say they still own it. So this removes all of that possible loop into the future, whereby saying, no, this is already done then, bang, in one fell swoop. Is that too much? Is that too far? I don't believe so. But others, you know, they may say, well, we need to do this and we need to do that first and move towards that. Well, I don't believe that's necessarily the case. Come and speak.
Well, what is the end result of, like, this is the hard part, because I see your concept, Lee, and I see it fully. But as soon as you bring in the word money, then, okay, that everyone has the ability to unlimited amount of money. What are they going to do with that money? They're going to buy things. And some people are going to be conscious enough to just buy what they need, but others are going to just continue this story of buying gold. You know, like, you're going to go back into that circle, because people are hoarders, is what I'm saying. Like, people are hoarders.
They were. But then what are you going to hoard when there's nothing? Everybody's equal and everybody's got an unlimited amount. What can you hoard when everybody's got everything? So this hoarder, that thing that they were, and I see it as a, you know, don't get me wrong, we can see a lot of these individuals, but when it's equal and parity and unlimited, then what can you hoard? Wealth, knowledge, respect, love, compassion, all of these different things you start to not hoard, but you start to be revered for, as opposed to this gold, how much monetary you've got. So in the aspect of the word money, I'm not going to argue with you on that. What I've said this before and I'll say it again, in my mind, we need to release money. And I'm not going to talk about new world order. I'm just talking about what's beneficial for all. Having a monetary value on anything as a means of exchange. Well, we need to, but no, we don't. That's, again, this is the old, going forward to the new, share. create for everybody. But so money, how do you remove money without taking it from somebody? The only way you're going to realistically do it is by their free will saying, we don't need it anymore. So do you then create a material where that you do need for an exchange, or do you create an unlimited amount that's non-material based on the value of the human? And then will the human collective then walk forward saying, well, we've all got everything we need. We've all got billions in money. What are we using it for? And the free will choice then will be by the collective of humanity to release this complete and utter ridiculousness of having to part something to get something. So in the aspect of release of the money, yes, it's called a monetary system at the moment, but that's because it's a necessity at the moment, but it's a limitation in the future that can be released through using the word money at the moment, which is a non-fearful aspect of this. So it's not, we're going to take money off you. No, we need it. Okay, we're going to give you all the money in the world. Brilliant. And then you're going to release it yourself because you know that you don't need it now. It's only when it's scarce or been created as a scarcity that we feel we need to hoard it. And all of a sudden, then it won't be needed to be hoarded. So again, it's this, GPMS is this transitional instrument that will, by definition, outgrow itself from the beginning.
I see that. I see that part. And I mean, that's where where you and I can come to agreement. So what you're admitting, just like I'm admitting, is that we have to go through a transition. It's a transition away from money, but you're still talking about money by saying GPMS. It still says the word money in there. So it's transition no matter what. And I think we're so close on so many fronts because the people that I'm discussing this with are humanitarian in nature, are service minded, are not thinking in terms of ownership. Okay, they're not, and they're thinking in terms of abundance because they know it's abundant. Like when we talk about funds and accounts that are quadrillions of dollars, how in the hell would that make any sense to the average person? Like you can't even, it would take, I don't know, like I don't want to compare, like it's just silly to try and make bold statements because we'll just get judged for them if we say anything about the people. Like I already said, people are hoarders. I don't think that that's a lie. I think that if people have money, they're just going to keep buying stuff. And we prove it to ourselves every Christmas. Like, can we stop people from going into Walmart and continuing to buy plastic shit, even though they're forced into this and they're forced into this to get into these places, to go into a hockey game or to go into a restaurant and waste money on, service rather than cooking it at home? We can't stop that. Look at what they're doing. They're just continuing. So it's not a bad thing. It's their right. And it's their values and their wants and their needs or whatever you want to call it. So I think I don't know, like I'm about ready to shut her down today. It was a good day.
I was ready to jump in there as well. I mean, I wanted to let this one ride a little bit because it's kind of cool seeing the two worlds starting to come together. Sure. I wanted to say as well, though, off camera at the end of the show last week, we had a conversation with Cody, and Cody was expressing some of his frustration of being able to get groups to come together too. Now, his argument was that, there were a lot of egos at the heads of these different concepts and ideas and programs and such that he was having a heck of a time trying to get people together. But I think that might be a great conversation for future shows, maybe next week. But yeah, absolutely. I had one other thought I wanted to throw in too, and that is that just because we're going to go to a new step, whatever that new step is going to be, it doesn't mean everything is resolved or solved all at once. I can't imagine that. I don't think that'll happen. I think we all have our own journeys, and whether we have situations where everyone has unlimited amount of money, then there's going to be lessons to be learned if that's what they experience. If we go to, trickle the money to them, there'll be lessons for them to experience, maybe the same lessons, just in a different way. I don't think we have the power or the control to manage that. That is going to be something that just organically comes in each person's life. And all we can do is, pick the best system that most of us want to follow and go after, and we go from there. Closing words, Lee, for you, and then I'm going to pass it to Randall for the final words and blessings, please.
No, absolutely. I agree with, this, again, it's only stories, and the instrument is there, the GPMS that can be consented to. As we speak, we're giving our personal perspectives, and GPMS is completely and utterly organic. Hence, it's only a guideline, if you like, to move forward with. But it's up to everybody else to choose as they move forward. This is there for humanity to choose as soon as they want, to see past. The other stuff is stuff that we can talk to transitionally, and we can put this process in and these steps in from others. It's only stories. It's the unity that creates the movement forward, and through that movement forward, then organically each individual will continue on their journey. It's what environment they do it in is the beauty of what GPMS will do. That environment completely changes. What you see outside doesn't necessarily, and people running to shops and buying all this plastic shit to just and buy all this crap. Well, is that beneficial to humanity, or will that plastic shit still be being produced when we don't need it? It's only there because we feel we do, at this point in time again. So everything's going to change as we move forward. All of these premises and pretenses or perspectives will all change as the environment shifts. I'm very excited by it in this chaotic period. I'm really excited by what we're going into. And that's why I would talk to anybody about anything without judgment or dismissal of their perspective, because they're correct. This is the beauty of it. Everybody's right from their own way of thinking. It's just then, if something else comes in that says, try and think of it that way, can you? Or you're going to shut it down? No, that can't happen. And it's this unlimiting that limited possibility at this point in time, which is very exciting for me. Removing those limitations day by day by day. Be they your limitations, what you think you can do, what you think you are, how worthy you think you are, how much value you think you can put back in, dropping all of this and saying, you know what, why am I limiting myself? And then into reality and into society. Why is that limited? Why is that limited? Why is there limitation there? And asking all of these questions and unlimiting them all. Is it necessary? Again. So I'll just leave it at that for now. And it's been an absolute pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you very much. And my love to you all and everybody else out there that may listen.
Thank you, Lee. That was awesome. One little thing I'm going to throw on top of what you said and then pass it to Randall for closing is that I think we also have to look at what would be the most accepted. What will be something that the majority of the people that aren't awake or in connection with these different systems that are available as new systems coming in, what can we grasp the easiest and what makes the most sense to us, and what will be most likely the most relatable to is sort of what came to my thoughts. So something to leave in the thoughts of both of you and our audience. And Randall, please take it away and your closing thoughts and final prayer, please.
Oh, I'd like to take that one on next time when we talk, that last point that you made in there, but I'll shut her down for today from inside Bankers Hall, Calgary, Alberta. Peace, harmony, love, abundance, and freedom for everyone and everything, every day on our minds. That's what we're here for, guys, is to serve humanity, that's for sure. And how we debate it or how we converse about it is for you, so that you can put your comments in below and take a look at what we've had to say. We want to hear from you. With abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria. Catch you later, guys. Love you.